Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about steps 10 through 13 in my 13-step foundation to healing from post-traumatic stress and trauma in natural, healthy ways. And the reason why I want to talk about these 4 steps all together in one video is because 2 reasons. One, they're very closely related. They could almost actually be one step, but there's subtle differences between each one, and you sort of have to do one at a time and build off it, hence the whole theory behind calling it steps. So and they're the end of the foundation, so to speak, the last half of the journey that I had to take. And so for me anyways, they were a lot easier to accomplish than all the other previous steps that I developed and went through. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first step that I'm going to talk about is step number 10, and that is focus. I talk to a lot of people all the time and about PTSD and healing and those sorts of things, and focus seems to be an issue. I know it was with me, because when I was dealing with post-traumatic and stress and all that, the anxiety was so powerful, it was so strong, it was so real, that it took control of everything that I was doing, everything that I was thinking. It manipulated what I would do, and it robbed me of a lot of things. So I quickly found out that the only way I could overcome it was to switch my focus. And what I mean by that is I had to catch myself when I started thinking negative thoughts, when I started thinking negatively or badly about events in my life, the past parts of my life, things that were happening to me currently, or even thinking negatively or badly about the future. So I had to catch myself when I was doing that. And once I caught myself doing that, then I had to tell myself, switch your focus. Switch your focus to something positive. So the easiest thing for me to switch to was what my dreams were, what my goals were, about what I wanted to accomplish. So for me, it was owning a house again. It was and still is, having a boat, and being able to go deep sea fishing, being out in the woods and nature, camping, those sorts of things. Being successful at what I do, at writing and the other things that I actually do for work. So I would quickly switch to that, and I would focus on just those things. I would focus on getting the house. I would focus on making money. I would focus on being successful. I would focus on where I wanted to be in the future once I got better. I focused on what I wanted to be working on in the future when I got better. And at first it was really difficult because it was so powerful, and my mind was now at that point, when I had the PTSD, trained to focus on the negative or only notice the negative. And so it was a mindset, and I had to break that. And as all of you, I'm sure, know, breaking any habit is not an easy task. It can be done, but it's not easy. So that's what I did, and that's how I did it. I still do that today. And it's just part of being a human. You have negative emotions and bad emotions and feelings and stuff. They pop up. But now I have a habit that when they pop up, I quickly switch and start thinking about something positive. And it's a lot easier to do now. It works great for me now. But again, it takes practice, just like anything else. And the same with all the other steps I talked about. It's something that I had to practice, that I had to work on, and I had to make a habit. It's all about, for me, it was all about turning bad habits, bad thinking, all these negative things, and putting negative and bad things into my body. It was all about changing that to doing good things, thinking good thoughts, putting good, positive things into my body. Doing everything I could to elevate my life and help me be successful and help me heal. The next step, step number 11, is a really important one, and it's something, again, that I still do today. And that is goals. So step number 11 is goals. And what I do for that is that every year I start on New Year's Eve, before I partake in any celebrations or anything like that. I sit down and I think about the goals that I want to accomplish for the following year. And I write them down. I don't think about how big they are and, oh geez, I'll never accomplish that, again, because that's negative thinking, and we just talked about changing your focus, or how I had to change my focus. So I don't care how big they are. If I want to earn $1 million, I'll write down on that sheet that I want to earn $1 million. And I list them all out. You can write down as many as you want. You know, I wrote down, when I first started doing it, it was like 10, I think. And, you know, it depends now. Sometimes I write 2, sometimes 4. It just depends what I want to accomplish in the following year. And I write them down. And I go over them after I write them down. And I put them in a folder labeled goals. And I stick them in a filing cabinet. And then, because I wrote them down, they're stuck in my mind subconsciously. And I was working on them without even necessarily knowing it, because I had already accomplished step number 10 in changing my focus. So I was really trying to, and successfully, focusing on positive things. And the next step goes right along with step number 11. That's step number 12. And that is to review your goals. Now you can review it, you know, if you're going to do this, you know, you can review it as often as you want. For me, I like to only review it once a year, and I review it. The goals that I write on New Year's Eve, I review them the following New Year's Eve. The only time that I ever actually review them beforehand or any sooner than that is if I feel like I'm getting off my path or losing my way. Then I go back to review them to remind myself what I'm actually trying to do here this year, or whatever year it is, and to help me get back on my path. And I found that when I review them once a year like that, I'm always amazed, without even thinking about it, how many of those goals I actually accomplished, and or how much I actually did accomplish towards achieving a certain goal, especially if it was a really big goal, like buying a house. So, you know, that particular goal took me, it stayed on my goal sheet for about 3 years or so. And then I finally achieved it. So, but each year that I reviewed it, the following year, I saw how much closer I was getting towards accomplishing that goal. Because quite often I found, obviously, with goals, you don't always accomplish them all at once. There's steps that need to be taken to get to that point where you do finally accomplish your goal. Like I said, I was amazed at how much I actually got done. And if there was something I didn't finish or quite accomplish in a year, or maybe sometimes there was certain things that I just didn't even work on at all, then those got transferred to the next year's list of goals. And eventually I get everything accomplished. It's a fantastic thing to do. Like I said, I still do it today. So it's just a great idea, a great thing to do, and it really helped me once I did all these other healing steps to stay focused on my goals, stay focused on my positivity, and remain centered and on my path. And along those lines, the 13th and final step that I'd like to talk about is staying connected. Because now that you're working on and accomplishing, now that I figured I was working on and was accomplishing the new me, that I needed to reconnect to everything. And what I mean by that is staying connected or reconnecting to your friends and your family. If you want, you know, for me, there was certain people that I stayed connected with or reconnected with, others that were just relationships that were toxic for me and bad for me. And I knew those people weren't going to change, and they were just going to keep doing the same things that they were doing. And I was a new person now, and I wasn't going to have any part of that. So as part of that, I had to learn to let go. So I let go of those relationships, and I moved on. And I talk about letting go in some of my previous videos and different steps, and processing your emotions and things like that. So stay connected to family and friends, the ones that you like, the positive people. The next thing that I found that I needed to stay connected to, so I felt reintegrated back into society, because with my PTSD, I stayed at home. I was isolated, completely isolated myself from everything. So the next thing I tried to stay connected to was my community, my neighborhood, my city, my state, my nation. And I know, especially nowadays with news and stuff, there's a lot of negative garbage that gets put out there. And I myself personally hardly ever watch the news. Once in a while, I'll watch it to get caught up on some things. But I don't like hearing all the garbage that's out there. So what I do is I just get online and I look up articles and things, or events and things like that. And I just pick and choose the things that I want to read. Things that sort of align with my thought process, with my ideals, my goals, things like that. And that's what I read. And so for me, that's how I cut out all that garbage. I cut out all that negativity. But I was able to stay connected to my city, my state, my environment, my community, and my nation. The other part of being connected, and this was very important to me, was staying connected to my source. So what I mean by that, for me, my source was my source of energy, my source of inspiration, my source of faith. And so, whatever, if you're doing that, it can be whatever it is for you. It doesn't matter. Those are just the things that it was for me. And so, staying connected to my source of energy was, I sort of liken it to being a rechargeable battery. And when I reconnect to that, it's like plugging that rechargeable battery into the wall and recharging it. Because if you don't do that, eventually the rechargeable battery dies. It runs out of energy, and then it's like no good. You have to get a new one, right? And that's kind of what I likened my PTSD state to, is that rechargeable battery had gotten disconnected and was no good anymore. I needed to basically get a new battery. So I stay connected to my energy, stay connected to my inspiration, which comes from within me, and I stay connected to my source, or my faith, which also comes from within me. I don't go to church or anything like that. I don't belong to any organized religion. I just believe in the goodness that there is in the universe. I believe in my internal compass, my intuition. That guides my life. It tells me what to do. I listen to it. I've learned to trust it. 9 times out of 10, it's right. And I've seen that, so I trust it. And so I stay connected to all these things by meditating. And when I talk about meditation, I talked about it in a video further back in my 13-step foundation. It's not something that, it is whatever it is for you. If you're gonna, if you meditate. For me, I wasn't sitting there going om over and over again or anything like that. And if someone's doing that, that's fine. If that's what works for you, then by all means stick to it. For me, it just meant sitting in a place and being quiet and just existing, just experiencing and observing the world around me, what's going on. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, whatever time I had, that's what I did. In the beginning, I started off doing it in small increments because it was kind of tough to stay focused until I built up this habit. And of course, with PTSD and that, I had all these thoughts and negative things bombarding my head all the time, and I had to come up with a way to get it to stop. And so, I just do simple things. I get up and, have a cup of coffee, and I sit and be quiet. Or I'll even listen to some classical music while I have that first cup of coffee. Generally, though, I like to meditate more in the evening. So when I get done with my work and that for the day, I like to sit out front. I have a lot of plants out front, and there's a lot of wildlife in terms of birds and things like that. They come around, bees and things, and whatever it is. And I just sit there and exist. I be quiet, I just exist, and I observe everything that's going on around me. And anytime any sort of negative thought patterns come into my mind or that, I block it out. I switch my focus, again, step number 10. I switch my focus to something positive, or I repeat a saying to myself, and to remind myself to just stay neutral and just observe. And I just say to myself, I am that I am, and all is well. And I repeat that over and over again until those thoughts stop. And if I get good thoughts, or sometimes that's when I get the best ideas, is when I'm sitting there meditating like that and just observing and being quiet, because I block all the negative garbage out of my head, all the bombardments from society. It gets all blocked out, and it allows my creativity to flow. And whatever it is, ideas for landscaping for the yard, or fixing up the house, or something new to try in the stock market that I do, or some new idea for a book, or a new way to say something in a book that I'm writing now, or whatever it is. Or I like to go out hiking and do that. Camping, I do that. So it's just, I sit and watch the stars or the sunset, and I notice things that I never noticed before. I learn things that I never knew before, and it's just very enlightening, very invigorating, and very energizing, and very peaceful. And that's the biggest thing I was trying to achieve, was a state of peace and calmness after all those years of suffering with PTSD. And then I do it again at night when I go to bed. But what I do is I focus on my breathing. I block all any thoughts out of my head. I focus and concentrate on my breathing, and that's how I block them out. And again, I repeat that phrase to myself, I am that I am, and all is well, until the thoughts stop. I focus on my breathing. I slow everything down. I can feel, my blood pumping throughout my whole body, and, your fingers, toes, all those sorts of things. And all of a sudden, I found that I could just feel this overwhelming feeling of relaxation come over my entire body. And the next thing you know, I was out, I was asleep. And then I sleep good. And those are things I still do today. So a lot of this foundation that I built and used to successfully heal from post-traumatic stress and trauma in natural, healthy ways, I still do today. So not only did it build a great foundation for me to fight and overcome my PTSD, but it also helped me to become a more healthier person, not only physically, but mentally. And because of that good mental health, I can then have great positive physical health. Because without good mental health, you can't have physical health. And your brain and your mind control everything in your body. So, and then with all that, having said all that, in my book here, The Sword and the Anvil, A Definitive Guide for Natural Healthy Healing from Post-Traumatic Stress and Trauma, I have a poem that I wrote when I was attending a creative writing group at my local VA. And these veterans were learning to heal their PTSD or release negative emotions and things like that through writing. So I used to go speak to them from time to time. And so I wrote a poem for all of them. I shared it with them. It's published and copyrighted in my book. So I'd like to read that to you. And it kind of sums up what PTSD was like for me. So here's the poem. In my box I hide, safe and sound inside. Barrier put up, outside denied. Holding you back, staying with what's familiar, keeps you down, seems quite peculiar. Focused on the negative, the box stays closed. I am my own worst enemy, I suppose. Second guessing the opportunity to be successful. I am the only one who knows. Staying focused on the past holds you back, as my box only shows. So, I come out of my box, and I discard my shield. My brightest future, as a sword, I must wield. My box. And that had come to me one day, and so I shared it with them, and they all liked it. And there were some other people in there that wrote poetry and stuff that were quite creative and had some great poems and things. But that kind of summed it up. So if you've been with me on this journey through my 13-step foundation to healing, I hope that it has inspired you to go out and learn and begin your own healing journey, whatever that may be for you. And that was the intention of the book and the videos and all that, is to show people that, hey, I had it too. I had PTSD too. I suffered from it for 25 years. I was able to overcome it in healthy, natural ways by going out, doing the research, doing the work, and all those things. I mean, even if you're going to a doctor, which is fine, however you got to do it, you got to do it. But you still have to do the work. The doctor can't do that for you. The medication can't do that for you. It has to be done by you and only you. So I hope that I've been an inspiration. I hope that I've helped a lot of you understand what PTSD is and what it's like, so that you can understand your own family, friends, and loved ones that have it, and perhaps maybe even help them. And if you have PTSD, that any form of anxiety, I hope that I inspired you and showed you that there is hope, that you can heal, that it just takes work, and that's, I hope that I've provided that for all of you. And just to finish, I am on Twitter. You can find me under J.R. Siraki, and you can follow me there. If you want to chat, that's a good place to follow me. You can send me a message. I'll chat with you. I talk to people all the time. We have a nice little community going there. I also have, if you do the drop-down window below the video here, I have all the links to all my work, all my TV interviews, all my radio interviews. I have a link to my sets for all my podcasts that I do. And there's links there to my books where you can find them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble Nook. You can also order them from your local bookstore. So please click on that, and remember to like, share this video, and to follow me. It helps me to be able to keep doing what I do, and also if you purchase my books, it helps me to keep doing what I do, because I take whatever I do get from that and I keep producing these videos. I keep writing more books and having them published. So that all helps me. I appreciate that very, very much, and this is my way of giving back. So good luck to all of you. Happy, healthy healing, and I will continue making more videos, and so I will see you in the future. Take care. I'm out.